All right, this match review comes to us from darkXwolf17, who only has 40 hours in the playtime in Dead by Daylight. So very, very new. Most people don't get their fundamentals firmly down till about 1K hours, and you don't even have 100 yet. So you may have some things that go wrong, and they're not necessarily your fault, just because you're still getting used to the flow of the game. You're playing the Xenomorph, which is a very, very firm B+ tier killer. The bad thing about them is that they are a moderate skill floor. If I had to rate them, 10 being really, really hard, and then like 1 being a super easy character to pick up, they're probably like a 6-ish. So especially for a new player, it might be kind of challenging, but they're very, very satisfying once you get good with them. Your character's not going to be holding you back, but Disturb Ward is one of Xenomorph's worst maps. It is a very, very large map, at I believe 172 or 3 square tiles, something like that. It is the 3rd biggest map in the game. The collision of this map is also extremely questionable, and you're a character that's very sensitive to collision, especially those burned out building tiles. Very, very hard to hit in and around just because the collision doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. That combined with the map size and a lot of like questionable control station spawns make this map overall kind of not very Xenomorph friendly. So that may be working against you. Let's take a look at your add-ons and your perks. You have a fine add-on choice. Lambert Star Map is Xenomorph's best add-on, which lowers your nerfs the turret ranges from 10 meters down to 8. And then you're using Emergency Helmet, which lowers the resistance to turrets, or raises your resistance to turrets by 15%. It is kind of overkill to run both. There's nothing really bad about running both. It's just like you don't realistically need both unless you're trying to be like super sure. Other options, you could run Harpoon Gun, which causes people to scream if you hit them within 30 seconds of exiting a control station, and anybody outside your not your terrorists, but 16 meters of you screams and reveals the location. You can do Molten Skin, which is every time a survivor touches a flame turret, they have 30 seconds of exhaustion. Self-Destruct Bolt, another famous one. Vault 30% faster in crawler mode, that sort of thing. Like I said, we had talked earlier that obviously with your hour count and stuff, you don't have a lot of perks available to you. So I think Spies from the Shadows is great. It's one of Xenomorph's better perks because Xenomorph does not disturb crows in crawler mode. So you get more activations of this than the average killer does. Alien Instinct can be good if you're going for like an injured, like kind of anti-heal base play. What you could do is swap out Emergency Helmet for Kane's Helmet, which applies 70 seconds of Mangled per tail attack. That way you can try to get more value out of Alien Instinct, because Alien Instinct is the one where you get Oblivious on the last person that was hooked on injured, and you get Aura on them as well. So you could run Kane's Helmet with that to try and keep them injured in order to try and guarantee value on that, because if they're fully healed, that doesn't do anything. Bitter Murmur, not an ideal perk pick. Xenomorph already doesn't need a great deal of aura reading because they have one of the best info kits in the game, just like under Doctor, with all the footsteps and the sound reading and the killer instinct that the tunnels afford you. But like we were talking about, you don't have a lot of perks yet being this early, so that's fine. And then Dead Man Switch is great. Dead Man Switch is a perk that when it got nerfed became a little less universal in its use, but Xenomorph is a character that can force people off gens pretty naturally by popping out of the control stations next to their gens. So Dead Man's synergizes really well with their base kit. So in terms of things I would adjust with build and add-ons, maybe throw on Kane's Helmet instead of Emergency Helmet to make Alien Instinct stronger, and eventually find something to swap out for Bitter Murmur. Hi, Char Char. How's it going, friend? How are you? Okay, you get in a control station right away, which is what you should do. Thank you for the lurk, Stan. I appreciate it. Okay. In this situation, you see that there was somebody there because you had footsteps on your screen. Spies language is really good, yeah. So when you have this little arrow, this little orange arrow on the left side of your screen, or wherever it happens to be, that means that there are active people like making footfalls above you, the little orange footfall. Somebody's doing that, but it's just outside your field of view. So it's giving you this little arrow to kind of tell you like, hey, look over here and see what's happening. But you don't even look to see where they are. And honestly, whenever you see these orange footfalls or see the little like arrow telling you that there are some around, you're already set to go. You're already set to pop out of this control station. because you're close at this point. If you're getting the footfalls, they are close enough that you can pop out of the control station and engage them. So I would see this and then pop up. But you seem to miss this entirely. Oh, good. I'm glad you can finally get away from that. Migraines are awful. Absolutely awful. Okay. So you do know where multiple people are. Good job hitting the guy that putting the turret down. Okay, you're taking your loops really, really wide. And that, once again, you're fairly new to the game. So those are the kind of things that like you'll get better at as you continue to play. But typically in Dead by Daylight, both on Killer and Survivor, you want to be staying as close to whatever you're looping, whatever that be, like a jungle gym, shack, whatever it happens to be. You want to be hugging those as close as possible. You shouldn't be like coming around the corner and like getting like 2, 3, 4 feet to like a meter plus out from the side of the loop, because you lose a lot of distance doing that. So try to hug whatever you're looping as closely as possible. Okay. Good shot on the window. You're gonna kick it in. You'll be able to force Demon's Eye here on this gen. Yeah, you don't have your power yet, so you couldn't quite hit him there. Yeah, Lithe. Yeah. He also has Scene Partner. Okay, at this point, I'd probably leave this chase. And another chase presents itself. There you go. Yeah, because you had invested quite a bit of time into that chase, and I got a hit yet, so it was a bad time to leave. She probably has balance, unfortunately. No? She's just a little silly. Never mind. Silly landing. Not bounce landing, silly landing. But you got tricked by the scratch marks there. Thankfully, you find another chase. You didn't hear that? You didn't hear them running next to you? Yeah, they were at that pallet, but you... Okay, I think one of the things, and this is once again probably because you're newer, I think that I see this a lot with people not only playing Xenomorph but playing a lot of characters that gets into the match reviews, is they try way too hard to look only at scratch marks when they're trying to track where somebody is. And that's what the scratch marks are there for, realistically. They're like, hey, Survivor went this way. But there are people that like will solely rely on scratch marks to track their survivors all the way up into like 3, 4, 5K hours in the game. And like it ends up in situations like this where like the person is obviously at the pallet. There's not really a reason for them realistically to go running out into the dead zone, because the next loop that's straight ahead past this is really far away. So they're not going to make that. There's not a pallet readily available behind them. So realistically, your brain should be saying, okay, I see scratch marks. What is the closest thing that they are probably going to? You should already be making an educated guess, an inference on where's the survivor headed based on these scratch marks. But instead, what you're doing here is you're just like roguely, just very, very strictly following the scratch marks until you visually see the survivor. You should already be taking the scratch marks and making an inference on where they are possibly going, instead of just like, you know, ooh, piece of candy, and like keeping your nose in the ground and following the scratch marks. This is a newbie problem, but it is also a problem that if you don't abandon it now, like I said, there are people with like 4 or 5K hours who have internalized this and still do this. They will solely track somebody entirely based off the scratch marks and like not look up and not make a guess on where they're actually going. So it's a good habit to abandon, a bad habit to abandon early and to catch early. So it's good that we got this. You can hit through this, by the way. If you M1 while they're hugging this loop, you actually hit them through the the vines there. It's really dumb. I'm surprised they've never patched it, to be honest. That was a good attempt, but... Oh, he's right there. I like how you don't kick gens before starting chase, you kick them after. That's a bad habit that, once again, even with people with thousands of hours still make. But you wait till after to kick, which is good. You have Alien Instinct on, but you didn't even look. Alien Instinct activated on that Cheryl, but you didn't even look for it. Whenever you have an aura ability going off, always remember to look for it. You see, realistically, you would think that, but like I said, I see people that like have thousands of hours in DBD who like will solely only do what the scratch marks tell them. Like they won't make any inferred guesses. They won't do anything. They're like, I only go where scratch marks go. It's kind of wild. I think it's interesting because like, since it's a hotly debated topic, it's like behavior's current in-game tutorials aren't like very expansive, which they did say, thankfully, in the dev stream that they're like rehashing that, and hopefully it'll be better afterwards. People will like internalize like a lot of bad habits for a very, very long period of time. That was a good mind game. I don't think you necessarily need to do it, but it was a good mind game. So I think it leads to a lot of people internalizing a lot of bad habits for a really long period of time, because there's not really a consensus on like what's like good and bad, which like we talked about plenty of times on the stream before as well. It's like, I feel like that's also why like 80% of the Survivor player base is like very middling, if not just outright bad at the game, because like survivors have such a different idea of like what's good and what's bad, and there's not a real consensus because they essentially, nice shot, very, very good shot, they essentially have to figure out on their own. Because like if you go out into like DBD, I do like that you're barely going for those. That was the first time I've seen you do that. I remember in our first match review, you were putting yourself way behind, going for those fancy shots way too much, and now you're doing better as a result. What was I saying? Yeah, like even if you go around like to different Survivor main streams, they play completely differently, which isn't a bad thing, but like I think the quote unquote issue comes in the sense that it's like a lot of them disagree on what's good and what's bad, and they teach people different things. One thing I've noticed is like you're kind of hesitant to use, like you'll get into your control station to start the game, but you're not really using your control stations to get around. I am somebody who doesn't use my control stations nonstop, but it's because like public games aren't really that intense. I like to match the energy of like whoever I'm facing. So if I, you know, for sure know it's like a 4-man Swift going in, like I check their Steam profiles and they're all friends with each other, like, you know, I'll be using my control stations probably more often. But like, if it's just like, you know, an average public game of Dead by Daylight, like I don't go into my tunnels nonstop because like, until I need to, it's just like an easy way to like chill and not play as intensely. But realistically, if you want to be efficient, you should be hopping in your tunnels like as much as possible to get from point A to point B. So make sure you're doing that. Spies from the shadows. Dead man. Yeah, your take thing's mega wide. I think that's like a minor efficiency thing that's like kind of becoming unminor because, yeah, and your tracking needs a lot of work. Yeah, it's like I made, you know, it's funny. My own video showed up in my recommended the other day of like the bro no way survivors. Like while their videos are silly and really entertaining, like they teach survivors that that's how they play the game. Ew, boil over, that's rough. Don't fall. Ah, okay. So boil over gives extra wiggle progress when you drop down. it's not as bad because like you just pick them up, so they're not going to be able to get a lot of that bar progress, but it's still generally something that you want to avoid. So if you see that little horsey perk at the bottom, I would not try to drop off anything. You probably need to just drop her. You're probably not making anything now. Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest issue I'm seeing is you don't try to predict at all where the survivors are going. Like, you're very much like, I only do what the scratch marks tell me to. And you got to start making guesses about where the survivors are going, because you're losing a lot of efficiency by, like, not going somewhere unless the scratch marks explicitly tell you to. I would stick to that cage. That cage is death. No, don't get distracted by the Cheryl. So buy 2 generators in Dead by Daylight. That's typically when you need somebody sacrificed and out of the game. If that's not the case, you need to look over here at your HUD on the left and make sure that that happens as soon as possible. You had the perfect opportunity to do that right here with Nicolas Cage, who is right next to you. You already got the hit on him, and he's death hook. But instead, you're going to go after somebody with 0 hooks, and that's going to put you fairly far behind. So you should have gone after Cage there. It sounds like he's still around. No, you're going to hook this person. This is the wrong Nick Cage. This is the other one. Good shot. Your Xenomorph gameplay is excellent and far, far above your hour count. That much I will say. Like, for somebody of your hour count, you are very smooth with your tail attack. Don't put her up on a hill when she has spoil over. Okay, you're kind of playing into her hand here because you're putting her in an elevated place while she has spoil over. So hope she doesn't have, like, balanced or something with it. She didn't seem like she did earlier, but let's hope that remains that way. Ooh, double turret setup. It's not your fault that doesn't have counterplay. You could have tail attacked both because they were right next to each other, but that's, like, more advanced stuff, so it's like, you know. Whenever you lose your power as Xenomorph, it's always in your best interest, if there's a control station nearby, to just pop back into a tunnel, wiggle back and forth, and get it. Because while moving in the tunnels, you get your power back at 18 times the speed, or at 18 times, 8 times, not 18, 8 times the speed while moving in the tunnels than you do while it's naturally charging just while walking around. So you had the opportunity to pop into a tunnel and get your tail attack right back. And you didn't. The reason you do this is because Xenomorph really doesn't have any sort of benefits to being in their standing mode. There's really nothing there. You're just a 115 normal killer. There's nothing going on. So if you wouldn't chase somebody powerless as Trapper, don't chase them powerless as Xenomorph. Go ahead and get your power back. You need to find the other cage. You have the right idea, because that gen had a lot of progress. You need that for sure. Good Dynamite value here. Oh, if you had lunged, you got that, but you basic swung. I think you're getting stressed. I think I can see. Like, you're getting stressed, and it's causing you to make mechanical mistakes. See, you hadn't done that the entire time. That was one of your big mistakes from the last match review, is that, like, you would Hail Mary swing through pallets to gens. And I hadn't seen you do that so far, and that was a good improvement, but I'm seeing as you're getting stressed, it's kind of like showing itself again. Let's make sure we're still not doing that. Missing a turret soul tilting, yeah. Because like it's like I made the right decision, but I didn't get rewarded. Kind of feeling, you know. Make sure, yeah, make sure you get in your control station. Yeah. This is kind of one of the big things that's hurting you. You know they're up there now. They're starting to come over here. And this team didn't have anybody on it. You ignored all the info that you had. Just for like a kind of a hope they're over here sort of deal. Yeah, you lost the gen for it. You had the info they were there too. And you ignored it. Fun fact, lunging while falling doesn't actually save you distance unless you do it the opposite direction. That hit the bush, by the way. DBD's an interesting game. There's really no reason you should be chasing this person because he's running you away like where there's no generators. So you're just kind of like in a vacuum, not pressuring anything. And this guy's not even deathic, so even if you do get him down, it's not like you win the game off of this at all. It doesn't change anything. Get on Cheryl because she is deathic. Good job. Get her out of the game. Maybe take this tail attack, but get her out of the game. Okay, you're clearly stressed and you're just kind of like Hail Marying everything now. You need to get Cheryl out. Yep, they picked her up. You gotta get your Deathic gamers out. You gotta. That's just a mechanism like that in your brain that you clearly don't have established yet, which is fine because you're fairly on in your DBD journey. But by 2 gens or less, you gotta get somebody out of the game. And you had somebody Deathhook on the ground with no flashy savers or anything around. It was a free sacrifice, and you got greedy. You gotta get somebody out of the game by 2 gens. So just go ahead and pick her up. Don't get greedy again. No, you're gonna get greedy again. No, you're getting so greedy. Just take the sacrifice. Just get her out of the game. There you go. Hey, there's your other Deathic survivor. So hook her really quick. And then go after that purple jacket, Nick. Get him out. Perfect. You get dead man's at a very crucial point. Good. Go, yeah. There we go. There we go. Now don't get greedy. Be careful about him, though, because he does have a finger. Don't get too greedy. Don't get greedy. Okay. For somebody who's at 1 gen, you're playing extremely greedy. When you're in a situation like this, you got to play like safer, and take whatever you can to put yourself in a good situation. Instead, you're playing like very Hail Mary. Thankfully, they didn't pick him up in that time. You're very lucky. That hook is gone because you used it for Cheryl. You don't even realize. That's tragic. You just autopiloted there. Well, now you kind of have to go for like a 3-man slug. Good shot. I would literally just patrol back and forth and wait for Dwight to show up now. The best you can do. Because you can't pick him up because he wiggles. Yep. Okay, well, you know where he is. Oh, but you don't go over there. You know where he is. You see him on Bitter Murmur. Another big issue I've seen this match is like Alien Instinct has gone off, Bitter Murmur has gone off, and like you don't look. You don't look at when you get aura information, you like don't look at it at all. And if you are, you're actively ignoring the information you're getting. You got to take advantage of your perks. You would be better off running with 2 dead perk slots if you're going to run these info perks and not take advantage of them. Or just run anything else. Wait, why are you dropping him? This guy's still going to wiggle. You don't get him there. You play extremely greedy. I think, especially when under pressure and you need to get, like, the game is getting closer to a loss, you got to, like, tighten up and play safer. You greed like nobody's business. And it's what's putting you in these bad situations. That's unlucky. You got robbed. That wasn't your fault. That's just collision being funky. Yeah, and he's going to get out for it. Yeah. Yeah, you're going to lose the situation here. He might get out now. Oh, you barely get him. That's crazy. Don't swing. Get him to the... Don't waste time. Okay. You have no idea where the other cage is, though. Like, no clue. He could have crawled anywhere. You're in a kind of a rough situation now. Because, like, either... Like... You could hang out by the open door to make sure he doesn't go out there, but now Hatch is active, so, like, realistically, he could go find Hatch as well. So, I don't know. You wouldn't be in this situation if you hadn't got extremely greedy. You should have just taken your sacrifices, and then you're lucky you found him. Why aren't you picking him up? Okay. That was extremely close. That was extremely close. Don't play with your food, dude. What? What are you doing? Okay. You stress me out. You don't know what perks people have. He could have unbreakable soul guarded in your face there while you were messing around. You play extremely risky, like extremely risky. You take a lot of extreme unnecessary risks, and it creates more pressure in this situation than, you know. You almost let him go. Is that what you were attempting to do? Like you were going to like potentially let them go? Interesting. In terms of match reviews, main takeaways, you have a lot, but that's okay because we can avoid bad habits for later. First is you take your loops extremely wide. You need to be whether it be like shack, jungle gym, whatever tile you happen to be looping, you want to be as close to whatever wall you're following as possible. Because if you're taking these loops like extremely wide, you lose a lot of distance, and that allows them to make pallets, it allows them to make windows, it allows them to get extra distance. So try to hug it. That way you can save that distance for you. Second, and this was a huge one. This is kind of why most of your chases this match were extremely long, is you aren't making any sort of like educated guesses on where the survivors are going when you see scratch marks. You're just me follow scratch marks until the survivor shows up in my face. And especially like early on, scratch marks in general are very inconsistent and don't always go the direction that the survivor is going. So realistically, you need early on to already form the habit of, okay, well, I see the scratch marks, but they're vaguely close to this pallet or they're close to shack. So ergo, they're probably going to shack. The survivor's probably running to shack, and I need to look and check shack, and boom, they're going there. Right now, it seems you're still just kind of like, me see scratch marks, I'm going to follow the scratch marks until the survivor shows up in my face. Which leads you to, like, once again, wasting a lot of time because the survivor, like, especially at that little like garden there, that garden tile, they were at that pallet and you had all of the tools and information at your disposal to know for sure that they were there, but you took like 2 or 3 extra loops before you spotted the survivor, even though it was fairly obvious that they were right there. So when you see scratch marks, try to implement in your head like a, scratch marks are here, where could they possibly be going? And not just, okay, I'll keep following these until I see them. and that'll help save you a lot of time. The third thing, and like the main reason that this match was so close, is by 2 generators in Dead by Daylight, you need somebody out of the game. You need to go after your Death Hook gamers and get them out. You had multiple opportunities to get Cheryl and the purple coat Nicolas Cage out of the game, and decided to slug and then slug again and then slug again, and they got picked up, and thankfully you got lucky, but like, man, it could have definitely gone very, very poorly for you. You gotta get people out of the game by 2 generators. If you don't have anybody sacrificed by 2 gens, you gotta start implementing a game plan to make that happen. Find the person that's Death Hook, get him out. The fact that you kind of played with your food a lot there is why this match was so close. Yeah, what Mage is saying is perfect example. 1, We're Gonna Live Forever, they pick them up super quick, and then they have endurance, and then like you lose everything there. I think in general this will lead to like the 4th takeaway is like which is kind of like a very generalized summary of everything. You play extremely risky. You take a lot of risks, a lot of unnecessary risks. You are more risky in your first match review, at least in terms of going for these really ambitious tail attack like techs and stuff that like you didn't need to go for, but it would have been cool if you hit them. You were kind of like clip farming. That was you playing risky there. But now here I see more of like macro game, kind of like playing super risky, like having somebody Death Hook on the ground next to a hook and choosing to slug them and go for somebody else instead. You want to go for this big elaborate slug instead of just taking the kill you had right in front of you, which could have ended very, very badly. And you did it 2 or 3 or 4 times. And even at the very, very end there, when you had Dwight at the exit gate, but you found Nicolas Cage on the ground, you still chose to leave Nicolas Cage, go push Dwight out, and then come back. Realistically, what could have been happening there, I mentioned at the time, is that the Nicolas Cage could have been waiting there to pop his unbreakable soul guard in your face, which means pick himself up, have endurance, and then you would hit his endurance, and then you get out for free. Like you very much went for a lot of extremely risky plays. And I think the general advice that I could give to summarize this is like, as you lose generators, you should generally be playing more strict and safe than going for something extremely greedy. Like, as you lose gens, you need to take what you get. That way you can exert any sort of pressure back on them. You kind of played the opposite, where like you played like you had a lot of time to lose, even though you were at 1 or 2 generators left. So try to play more strict, more safe as you lose gens, and play a little bit more loose and risky when you have like 4 or 5 gens, where you can really afford to lose a little bit of time because you already have some pressure. Yeah, there's a lot of takeaways you have here. Your Xenomorph fundamentals, to make it positive here at the end, are very, very good. You know how to play this character well. Like your tail attacks are good, your mind games are good to get the tail attacks. You just need to like get your general game sense down. That way, like you have the perfect marriage of like good player, but also good Xenomorph player. If that makes sense. Because currently you have one half of the equation and now you need the other, which is very good that you're this early in your DBD journey and you already like understand good character fundamentals, right? Well, good character fundamentals. But you need to get the other half too. So hopefully some of these takeaways help you implement good habits and abandon bad ones.